that smells very different. I've not had this one before. Yes, good morning. It is that time of the week again. It's always that time of the week, fitness fragrance review time. And I'm doing a fragrance today from a brand I've actually never heard of before. It's called Bronnley. And the fragrance we're looking at today is called Lime and Bergamot. So we're going to do a fitness fragrance review on this one. If you haven't seen my fitness fragrance reviews before, essentially what I'm going to do is today I'm going to do a morning workout. So I'm going to go for a run, walk to the gym, do a gym workout, walk back, all while wearing this fragrance. And we're going to rank it on 5 categories. We'll look at its price to pay for money, we'll look at its versatility, how much you can use it in different situations, we'll look at its projections, how much I'm noticing it during my run. We'll also look, we'll do a room spray test to see how much the fragrance fills up a room, and then we'll give our score on projection. We'll look at compliment factor, do I think people are saying nice things about it? And then at the end, before I go to the gym, I'll spray my arm. A few hours will go by, once I've had my workout, done my shower and all those things, we'll see if I can still detect the fragrance after a few hours. So yeah, really interesting. I've never smelt this fragrance before. It is my brother's. Well, I keep nicking his fragrances, but essentially we've got our dad for Father's Day, so I'm filming this before Father's Day. One of these scents, and I'm just really interested today to see what I think of it, my initial thoughts, because yeah, this is a fragrance I've definitely never owned before, never heard of before. But what we're going to do, we're going to go into the note breakdown of this one very quickly and tell you what is inside. Lime and bergamot. It's a big clue already, isn't there? Okay, so on to the note breakdown, and it's very interesting, this one, not because there's a huge amount of notes in lime and bergamot, but because of how it's kind of presented. So the top notes are lime, bergamot and grapefruit, as are the middle notes, lime, bergamot and grapefruit. Yes, literally the top and the middle of the fragrance is exactly the same, and what I'm hoping that's going to do today is increase the performance of things like bergamot and lime, because they do tend to be notes that are in the top of fragrances. They tend to be quite light notes, and they fall off quite quickly, and then they're overtaken here. And in the base, you've got woody notes and amber in this fragrance. There's nothing too strong in the base that's going to make this overpower those fragrances. No, nothing like vanilla or caramel or a smoky, boozy note, a spicy note that can overtake sometimes these lighter citruses. No, they've really tried to increase the citrus in this, obviously having it in the top and the middle, just increasing the concentration and having nothing too strong in the background. So I'm going to spray a bit more, and I'll tell you of those notes what we can actually detect. Obviously, grapefruit's just as prominent in this as well. They could have just added it in the name, I feel, as well. Spray a bit there as well. Okay, so what I'm getting first of all is a very green, soapy scent. It's very, very soapy. There's nothing too sharp in this. Sometimes I think grapefruit can be quite sharp, particularly if you eat it as a food product. This one isn't. No, it's very much a softer fragrance. And it almost feels like there's a bit of musk in this one as well, but it's definitely all about green soapy. Yeah, it's like a green soapy bath, if that makes sense. It's like if you had like a bath bomb, you put it in the water. It's just very soapy and clean and green, which you'd expect. Again, lime, bergamot, very much green sort of notes in fragrances. But it feels like the springtime. That's what I'm mainly getting from this, a springtime type fragrance. It's nice. It's very, very nice. It smells very natural from what I'm getting at the minute as well. Nothing too harsh or synthetic in this at all from my initial impression. But we're going to go out for a run now. Do the first 2 categories on my runs: the price slash value for money and also its versatility. Let's get out there. See you in a bit. Okay, and we are off, and it is a very different review for me today. First time ever reviewing a fragrance from this brand, Bronnley, Lime and Bergamot. And we're going to start as usual with price slash value for money for this one. Now, I actually found this quite difficult to get a price for it, because it used to be sold on the fragrance shop for around £18 for 100ml. But you can't get it on there anymore. It's out of stock, and when you try and look on other websites, you just can't seem to find it. The only place I really seem to find it, and I know this is where my brother got it from, is eBay. And the prices mainly on there, or the first price you see when you search it, are the high 30s, sort of £39 for 100ml over to there. Now, do I think that's good value for money? £39, because that's kind of the price you're going to be looking at in general these days. I think if you're someone who's paid £18 before, probably not. I'd probably go, oh, that's doubled in price. I'm not really sure that's worth it anymore. Especially if it's because it's been discontinued. I'd think, do you know what, unless I really, really like that, I probably wouldn't really bother getting that one again. However, do I think if you've never bought this before, and you were like spending, say, like £39 for the first time, do I think it smells like that if you were blindfolded? I think it probably does. What I'd say, the first impression I had of spraying this morning was, it smells really natural. One of my favourite brands, or my favourite brand for clean fragrances, I always touch upon this, is Aqua de Parma. And the big reason for that is not because they have these really complex note breakdowns. Their cologne line is very simplistic, but it smells like they're using the very, very best oils they can. And in the case of here, look, does this stack up to an active department? No. But does this smell better than like a generic 15 to 20 pound bergamot fragrance? I think it does. I think they're definitely using more natural oils here when I sprayed on initially. The quality of it, there was no sort of harshness from like an alcoholic brass. It doesn't smell like it's become really, you know what it's like, sometimes you get those really strong synthetics that almost become quite cloying. This one isn't like that at all. It's very soft, very soapy, but it does smell high quality. It's got a slight element of class and sophistication about it. It makes it less juvenile because I can tell there's a bit of quality there, and I think that's the main selling point of this, where I think actually, look, it's quite a basic smell, it's a basic note breakdown, but I can tell there's a little bit more care and a bit more effort and a bit more quality control with this one than maybe some generic bergamot fragrances which you could pay £20 less for. I think if it was £18, I'd say it's punching above its weight. If it is that kind of £39, £40 now, I think that's kind of about right. So I'm going to say in general, sort of price fashion for value, this one, I'm going to go 8 out of 10. Again, I think I just can't look past the fact it obviously was cheaper in the past, and there isn't anything too daring about this one or complex about it, which you can get some very good fragrances around this price range that maybe just offer a little bit more excitement. But look, clean, soapy, fresh, it's one of the best I think for that price range. So yeah, so £39, not bad, 8 out of 10. Okay then, so on to versatility for Lime and Bergamot. How much can you dress this one up, dress this one down? Different ages, different occasions, different seasons, all those things. Well, anything that's a relatively light fragrance, which has notes of bergamot, lime, grapefruit in, woody notes, there's nothing too daring or divisive in this. You know, there's smells that you get in pretty much every fragrance, and whether that's an old school retro fragrance or a modern fragrance, you often find some of these notes listed in them, probably multiple ones, and that's because they have huge mass appeal. They're very easy to pull off, and they're ultimately suited more to those summertime occasions. Look, if I'm being honest here, who would I recommend this one for? I think first of all, I think it's straight down the middle, unisex. I think it's a fragrance for people who are maybe more 30 and up. Look, it's not that a younger person couldn't rock this, but say you're someone who's only owned maybe 2 or 3 fragrances before, and you've only spent around £10-11, you know, for like a very cheap blue fragrance or a 1 million, you're going to find this one a little bit more serious because of how natural it smells. It's not as juvenile, it's not as playful. It feels like the sort of person that's maybe left college and now they've just started a first job where they're wearing a nice shirt, nice shoes, and they want to step up their game a little bit. That's what I get. It's a kind of step up in terms of freshies, and yeah, it's very nice. It's perfect for everyday wear. I think it's actually too good for the gym. I don't think it's a dumb reach. I think it's nicer than that. And it can be your signature scent. I think that's the best thing I can say about this one, is whether it's a hot day, a cold day, wherever you want to wear it, it's going to have mass appeal. And one thing I would also add is I can't think, even though this is a very safe, easy to pull off fragrance, it doesn't smell necessarily like anything I've smelled before. You know, look, of course it smells similar and you'd use it in similar situations to say a Missoni Wave, but it hasn't got the same zestiness about it. And even some of those more soapy green fragrances, so I reviewed a Zara one the other day, Green Savage Summer, and that was kind of like a soapy bergamot as well. But this one just has that feeling of a little bit more class, a bit more grown up. So there's nothing really I can mark this one down on for versatility. Look, if I'm going out to make a statement suit and tie occasion, I probably wouldn't necessarily go for it, but other than that, you can pretty much wear it all the time. It's never going to feel wrong, it's never going to offend anyone, and I think overall it'll leave a good impression. It's got that calming effect about it as well, that reminds you of feeling clean and maybe just, you know, a summer holiday with your friends. So for that reason, I'm going to give the score here very high for versatility, 9.5 out of 10. The only reason I mark it down that little 0.5 is more a case of I think a younger person may not like this one as much, and it's not necessarily going to cut through the cold on those occasions where you really want to make a statement. But everyday use, really good one for your collection. There we are, workout done. Certainly felt better than I did yesterday. I felt so worn out yesterday. But it's now time to spray Bronnley lime and bergamot in my room to test for projection. So if you haven't seen this before, I'm going to do 10 sprays. And really what I'm trying to do is see how much this fragrance fills up a room. So if a colleague came in, if this was a work office, would they notice it? Again, obviously it's my room, so family or friend member, would they come in and go, oh, it smells nice in here, you put a nice fragrance on. I'm also going to spray my arms. So this is the test for longevity, which we said about earlier. Essentially 3 sprays on each side. 3 hours will go by. It's 9:15 at the moment. It'll be 12:15 when I leave the gym. Essentially, how much can I still notice the fragrance as well? But we're going to go downstairs, have a drink, and we'll talk about how much I actually noticed lime and bergamot during my run. So, projection during my run. How much did I notice Bromley's lime and bergamot? Well, I was really, really pleasantly surprised with this. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It feels really high quality, a little bit more natural than some other fragrances. And I think that gave it a bit better projection. Sometimes I find synthetic fragrances can be really loud for the first hour or two, and then they kind of drop off. Whereas I find the higher quality scents don't necessarily kick off so much at the start, but they're there to stay, which is why I think this one will do well on longevity later. But the projection wasn't bad. I didn't really notice it in the first hour, particularly when I was talking about it initially. I got a bit of it, but it wasn't really strong. The second half of the run, I noticed it a lot more. I remember I had to stop just for a quick stretch. Noticed it on that occasion. There was a couple of times where I was trying to cross the road and cars were coming by. Stopped, I could smell it. And at the end, just stretching, I could smell it as well. Again, not loud. I'm not expecting it to be loud. It's not that sort of fragrance. But it's really good. It feels like, as I said, I reviewed Green Savage Summer the other day by Zara. It feels like the older brother, the older parent maybe of that one. It's just a little bit stronger, a little bit more soapy. And it has this Hermes vibe. I compared it to Acte de Palme earlier. It feels like Hermes, like you're walking out in nature. That's what I'm kind of getting from this. Walking through a spring garden. It's very pleasant. Do I think it's going to fill up a room though? No, I think I'm going to say a little bit like I've felt before. It's going to be one that stays close to you. Someone sitting next to you in your scent bubble for a period of time. They'll notice it. But we'll go upstairs now, we'll have a smell and see if we can detect anything before we give a score on projection. Press stop and then press record again. Put the cap on. Let's walk up the stairs and see what we can detect. I'm a bit late today. I fell asleep on the sofa downstairs before I went out for a run. I really must get some sleep on my holiday. There won't be as much running for a change. Right. Yeah. It's kind of what I expected, and it just goes back to just my experience of these kind of bergamot soapy fragrances. Very nice up close on your scent bubble. Don't really fill a room though, and this one hasn't filled a room. It's about 20% there, but if let's say like I've done, I've gone from upstairs, sprayed it, walked down, come back up. I don't think you're going to leave a scent trail if that's what you're looking for. But that's not what I'm expecting with this fragrance. That's not really what this fragrance is all about. It's still very pleasant and it did pretty well on my run. So I'm not going to be too harsh on it. Oh, what do I give? I think it's probably just below par if we're comparing it to other fragrances. So I'm going to go 7 out of 10. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad. I can smell it here on me and where I obviously sprayed my arm before I went downstairs for my longevity test later. But if you're going for a little bit more strength, this isn't really the one. I think it's very hard to pull off these strong summer scents, particularly when the note breakdown is as simplistic as this one. But it's a very pleasant smell, and if you do catch a whiff of it, I think it's going to get good comments, and it may just be that person. It may just bring that person a little bit close to you if they're working next to you, say, on a computer desk. But we're going to head to the gym now and talk about compliment factor on the way, and do I think lime and bergamot can get you compliments? Okay, so moving on to compliment factor then for lime and bergamot. Do I think this one is a compliment getting scent? Well, I think the first thing we've got to say is anything that smells nice and clean and not divisive at all has huge mass appeal, and that's what this is. Soapy clean and just quite calming. I think this is the main thing I've noticed with a lot of the fragrances I've been reviewing lately. Because they're summer type fragrances, they do have that casual, more relaxing feel about them, and this one is absolutely no different. You know, you could certainly wear this one out of the shower, make yourself feel better. If you're a little bit tired in the morning before work, just spray this one. It will just make you feel a bit more ready for the day. And again, for me, number one thing before having a scent that has a bit of wow factor is just smelling clean and nice to other people around, not being offensive to anyone else around you. I suppose the kind of downside to this one is it's probably more one where you're going to get comments more than compliments. And I mean that in the best possible way. Some people don't really like attention drawn to them. Sometimes if you have those real statement type scents, those night out scents, you may draw almost too much attention yourself. And for someone like me who is quite a quiet person, you don't necessarily want a crowd of people going, oh, it's you who smells really nice, because you can get a little bit embarrassed yourself. This one's a lot more subtle. I think people will just say, you smell nice, rather than anything, wow, you smell amazing. It's not really got that about it, but it will make people remember you in a good way. So if you're wearing this as an everyday type scent, again, because it's versatile, you can wear it in many situations, you're probably going to get the odd comment of people around you going, oh yeah, you smell nice, rather than anything, too much else. I actually think the more I'm wearing this, the more feminine I'm finding it. It does seem to feel almost a little bit floral in its composition as well, but it is very nice. And again, I think that is all I can really say. It's very nice, it's very clean, and it has that spring garden clean washing type feel about it, which again, a lot of fragrances, a lot of brands do try and replicate those smells. So again, the fact you can wear it in many situations is a huge positive. I think the only other thing is where we've obviously spoken about projection. Is it really loud where people will particularly notice it? Maybe not. I'm not really expecting, even at the gym today, say obviously I'm wearing this to the gym to do a review. Do I expect anyone to notice it there today? No. If I wasn't doing this review, would this be the one I'd sort of reach for to try and get compliments at the gym? Probably not. So for that reason, it's the only thing I can really mark it down for. But because it's got huge mass appeal and it's very safe, and there is certain quality, I said this does feel very natural. I think it is going to last a bit longer in its longevity. I think it will get compliments. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It is very nice. It's very pleasant. It's just really, is it going to give you those big wow compliments that maybe someone's looking for? No, but if you just like those subtle nice comments every day, I think this one's definitely a winner. So there we are, gym workout done. It has been, it's 12:13, so it's nearly 3 hours since I applied this fragrance. It's time to test for longevity now. I've had my shower. What can we pick up? Okay, well, it is definitely still there. Now, it's not really strong or anything like that at all. You wouldn't particularly say anyone around you would notice this scent now, but it's still there. It's probably about 40% as strong. It does feel like it's changed a little bit since I've had a shower. It almost feels like it's more floral than citrusy now, but you're still getting very much that soapy DNA from this. And to be honest, I think this is punching above its weight, even though it's only 40, say 50% as strong as it was a few hours ago. When you consider how simplistic the note breakdown is, and the notes of grapefruit, lime, bergamot, woody notes, they're not really prominent, strong, aggressive notes in fragrances. You don't particularly notice them. They don't really cut through a crowd. And while I don't think this will, it's certainly lasted longer in terms of its longevity than I think an average fragrance that does have these notes in. And again, it goes back to, I think there's some really high quality oils in this, and even though it obviously used to be a little bit cheaper when you could find it online, I still think it feels like a 30 to 40 pound fragrance. It is very nice. It's got that quality about it. And honestly, if someone said to me before I tried to say, try this new Hermes fragrance, I would have believed you, because it has that feeling of being out in nature. It's very nice, and it does feel like a lot of effort and care has been put into it, and it's doing what I always say Lush do, just 3 or 4 notes, but high quality ones. They've done simplicity well, and I think that's lended itself to having better longevity than maybe these notes normally do have. So it's going to get a slightly higher score than I thought. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Now, I'll be honest with you, do I think anyone around me now would particularly notice I'm wearing it? Probably not. Would I almost forget I've got it on myself if I'd sprayed it around my neck and obviously had a shower or got really hot at work, for example? Probably so. I think I'd still want to reapply this one, because I think you would just forget it's there. It would be very tame by the end of the day if you're doing a 9-hour shift. And I also think, because you're going to be wearing it more in those high heat situations and more summer situations, I think you're going to want to reapply. But it's certainly, for what I expected today, a lot better than I thought, because it just doesn't feel like that note breakdown, how simplistic it is, would lend itself to having any longevity. And 3 hours after, also a workout and a shower, that's pretty good. So 8 out of 10. We are back, yes, finally back, and it's been a much more enjoyable workout today. I think having my haircut certainly made it feel like I wasn't carrying so much weight with me. But how many steps have we done? Well, it's 1:28 in the afternoon. It's 42,910 steps, all while wearing today Bronnley, lime, and bergamot. Yes, a fragrance I hadn't even heard of literally up 2 days ago and hadn't smelt until today. So what was the total score based on the 5 rounds we did during my workout? Done all right. 41 out of 50. Now, look, what I would say with this phrase, if you look at the scores I've kind of given to, I think the lowest one I gave was a 7 out of 10, and that was essentially because the phrase didn't really fill up a room. But other than that, seven's the lowest score, 70% of the total mark of that round. It's not bad, is it? What really I want to get the message across there is this is a great all-rounder. If you're someone, male, female, just want something that smells clean, fresh, a little bit more grown up, a little bit more classy, sophisticated, and very natural. That's the biggest thing I really like about this scent. Doesn't smell synthetic at all. Really, really natural fragrance. This is a great one to go for. It's relaxing, it's calming, it's uplifting, it's very approachable, and I just think it's suitable for so many occasions. It's really, really nice. This could be your signature scent. The best round it did today was obviously on that versatility, and for good reason. It's a summer fragrance ultimately, but that classness and the classiness of this can mean it can push into those winter times for those more dress up serious occasions because it has that quality and sophistication about it. I really like it. It's a fragrance that, again, I think if I didn't know it was that £18 mark, a couple of years ago, whenever it was available on the fragrance shop, I probably would have happily paid £39, £40, but it is quite basic. So if you want a little bit more complexity in your fragrance, maybe don't go for this one. But if you want a really high quality bergamot, grapefruit, lime type fragrance, then yeah, go for this one. As I said, it's got amber and woody notes in the base, but there's nothing too daring about it. It's simplicity done right, and I do recommend this one if you do like those sort of clean fragrances. And I'm going to put a little bit more on. I think my dad's done quite well because, again, my brother bought two, one for my dad for Father's Day, and I am part of that gift as well. I've paid for this as well, technically myself, but this is my brother's one. I'm not using my dad's one anyway, but I think he'll be very happy with it, and I think you'll be very happy if you try this one. So if you do get an opportunity to smell it, please do so, but don't expect, again, anything too groundbreaking because it's not that sort of scent. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed this one today. I'm going to go and have a look in my brother's room and see if there's any other fragrances I can take and review during my walk this afternoon, but if not, I'll be doing another walking video in a minute either way, so hopefully you'll see that one soon. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.